Hello, welcome to the show. This is SPY, SPX, or your futures, index futures. We'll also look at VIX and do our assessment of the charts. Where do we expect SPY to go? Well, 4-hour time frame. This is the all-time high and the pseudo recession, and then the retracement back to the top side. The retracement back from this high to the low, then this guy in around these areas, that's this Fibonacci, and you can see price action's made it all the way back above the 886. So a very strong move, and it doesn't necessarily have to go any further. We've also made it to the 618 Fibonacci extension from this high to this low, which you can draw in an extension because we exceeded the 236 on this guy, right? Made a retracement, I haven't put in a peak, you get your Fibonacci extensions. We've gone through the 618, but we haven't hit the 1618, which would be up here and exceed our prior high. So in advance of that, we have a number of targets. We do have the 618 here, and that being a prior level of resistance on price action, a couple of touches here, as you can see. Perhaps, I'll zoom in a moment. That's where we're looking for potential support at that 618, prior resistance, and a gap. As you can see, we departed and I've marked in with this red box. So SPY then, on the 4-hour time frame, having lost this 50 simple period moving average and having put in its own bearish divergent high, may well be then looking for support, and the previous level of resistance that might be at is 443. 443 at the bottom side of the previous gap, or around those levels. So that's the 4-hour. We're going to the 1-hour time frame, and this formation shows up slightly clearer. It's a potential wedge. It's already got 3 touches on the top and the bottom, so it's valid for all intensive purposes. You're at the top side of it and at the 200 period moving average on the 1-hour time frame. Very close to another gap, which we'll say is close enough is near enough in terms of filling it. While it could go on and test higher again. 449 spot 65 potentially. In order to do that, you'd be breaking this resistance line, which on the 1-hour time frame is real, going through the 200 period moving average and starting to put in questions about the trend, right? Because so far in the trend, you've got lower highs, lower lows. That's what makes these touches on yon trend line, right? Lower high, potentially a lower high, and you've got lower low below the 200, and a second lower low below the 200. So breaking back above this area here, which is obviously important for a number of reasons, not just the downward sloping trend line, but also the fact that price action here is in a downward leg of this previous trend from a bearish divergent high. So it's at a level of resistance in a downtrend, and traders look for continuation. So at this stage, you'd say it's definitely not a long from here. If you make your way back above the 50 simple, you'd be exceeding this second high, the middle of these 3 have drawn, and you would be challenging the idea of a downtrend at that stage, having recovered the 200 and a 50 simple and exceeded the prior high, even though you weren't breaking the high from the entire formation, which would lead you to questions at 450, 452, but we would expect resistance below there at that prior high at 450, and then in truth, we're already at it here. So it's great to see Nick, Theo, Mason, Crazy Nine, Ghost of Dan. Great to see you. Delete yourself. I'm here today because of yourself and Kitty's yesterday supporting the show. Thank you very much. And I thought, brilliant. It's a great start. We'll get back on the horse and keep it going now. It's tough coming back after a month, but here I am. Thanks very much for sticking with me. Cheers, Dan. So you've got this gap, and you've got this resistance level that we're potentially at, which puts it question marks then with regards to, we've seen the trend. We want to then look to the momentum, and we can see in here that you're below the center line on the RSI on the 1-hour, 4-hour, lose your own moving average, and you're below it after a quick drop, and on the daily time frame, you're just about to lose it. So if that daily time frame confirms on the RSI lower than the previous low there, thanks very much, Dan. Yo, treat yourself. Yo, XD. So what you're looking at here is the potential for price action to be at resistance, and then where would support be, because we've defined resistance quite clearly, and we'll talk about what happens if you break it shortly. Oops, pardon me, go there. You've got this gap below to look to and 50 simple period moving average on the daily time frame, and if you are to take this area out, you'd still be on this daily time frame in an uptrend, you see, because the highs on this time frame and the lows obviously a little bit different. There's the most recent high that's higher than the previous high, and these are the lows on the way up. Horizontal level at what most recent one comes in at around 437. So these are the tight areas below. If you break through this gap and don't close, arrest that downtrend at 443, then you'll come in and test 440, and 437 would be, you would anticipate a potential bounce, but you'd have lost the 50 simple and you'd be looking at 236 and around 429 and this important low here and thinking that's potentially where it goes. You could also, I mean, I could take this line from sooner and you'd see that you've already broken that diagonal to the top side, which would be support in this trend and move. So if price action is to have lost this trend, where is support? Would it be so very, very close to this 50 simple and the prior high, possibly? Or would you be looking at 236? These are the two clean areas where you'd get more likely strong bounces from 443 and 429. Anywhere in between, you're in danger of getting washed out there with a long. And if you do break to the top side, then the immediate resistance, which we can see on the 15-minute time frame and our little wedge, potential wedge, if you do break above the immediate resistance, which is where it is at the minute at 448, you'll be looking at tests of 450 and then 452. Break above that, you've got another gap. If you get into this gap, I suggest that you're going to probably go on and test a prior weekly high up around 458, which would be the target if you exceed 453. I can just make this guy a little bit bigger. Well, I can't. It's close enough. It's near enough, as I say. So these are the targets, right? The 437 below, that'd be a great place to get a bounce. And 455 to 458 above, should you make it through the short-term resistance, which again, they're not as clean as these other time frame up in the higher time frames where the trend is clearer. You haven't broken that trend yet. And those significant levels, the body closes coming in around those levels as well. So you can look to the daily time frame, but you might see it on the 15-minute. And then it's also probably worth your time looking at the 3-minute time frame, where you can see there is a Rocky Outcrop flash at 447. That would be disturbing this trend to the top side. So that would be a place that you would look to go to if price action exceeds this resistance level, downward sloping diagonal, tiny time frames, but if it exceeds it and then re-enters that same tightening wedge here, then you would anticipate a test of the center line. You've got a cross of the moving averages on the 3-minute. I don't think that's particularly important. So that's SPY. And we can add to that information now that we're at these low time frames, go into the futures chart where we are on the 3-minute, and you can see you've got this target of 4536. That's the equivalent on SPY of getting back towards the 86 at 450 here. Probably 450 spot 86 in the prior daily high, which is the prior high from the formation you'd be leaving. So that's the place you'd be targeting on SPY, backed up with a flash on the most soon to be expiring futures chart. Here's your prior high from that downward sloping formation. The equivalent one at 4528 and 4536 is the flash. So this is both to the top side in the 3-minute, and at the minute that's where we're trending, and on 3-minute we're trending that direction. SPX, no new information. The same gap to the bottom. You've made it through the golden pocket from that for prior high we're talking about on SPY, and perhaps you're looking for an 886 if you hold this golden pocket. So if you don't drop below 4498 and this thing isn't trading because markets are closed for SPX, then tomorrow morning when they open, you'll be looking up at around 4520 as the next target, 4513 just ahead of that. So SPY, you've got clear targets, both sides of price action. They're relatively equidistant from where we are at the minute, and you know where you'll go to depending on which of those tiny little resistance or support levels you break in advance. So that's what we're looking at in SPY, and you can get extra information if we go to VIX, which did manage to make it up to 1814 today. 15-minute time frame, that's quite a strong rejection from the channel so far. See if that continues. Higher time frames not so clear. 1 hour time frame, that'll do for VIX so far. So you've got gaps below here as well, and VIX not immediately looking to close gaps like many other charts, but it still does. A retracement back down there would exceed the golden pocket and take out this bullishly divergent low, which was in the context of this previous trend. Lower on RSI, it's an uptrend. Price action not lower, so the momentum pushing it down. Took more momentum to get it less distance, and so the uptrend continued. You were met with this divergent high across the piece though, so a little bit of retracement is possible. If SPY goes to the top side, obviously you're going to see VIX coming back down, and having lost the 50 simple on the 1 hour time frame, you might anticipate a test of the 200 period moving average. Likewise, losing the 236, maybe you're looking for that 618 retracement, and as such you could anticipate in around 1485, we'll call it 1485 on VIX, which would speak to SPY making that next wee leg move up. If tomorrow you see VIX pushing back up and exceeding the high at 18, it'll be aiming for 20, because there isn't very much to go to between here and there. So if you're looking for 20 on VIX, that means SPY's coming back down. And if it's come back down, we've already talked about that. You're already at resistance levels, and you've got this little formation to look to. If you see VIX at 20, you'll see SPY touching 445, touching 444, and probably coming down into the golden pocket, exceeding that gap. And on 4 hour time frame, that'd be a test of that prior high. Previous support now, previous resistance now support of 443. So you see VIX at 20, you'll see what's happening on SPY. That's what we're thinking there. So that's what I'm thinking for SPY. Probably welcome to summarize all that for you if you like. Other things that are interesting, a lot of people talking about PayPal with their new PayPal stablecoin having launched. It's bullish news, but it's into a bearish trend, so it hasn't had a big effect yet. That's the 4 hour time frame. You can see as much as you need to here with the downward slope and diagonal. And the important horizontals on PayPal are to get back through the gap and exceed the high at around 77. If you start doing that, PayPal will move to 88, 89, then test back up towards $100. But the important target is 77. You'd probably see price action going there if it was to exceed 72. So I think there's, a huge percentage chunk on PayPal if you can manage to get a good entry, manage your risk properly, even without it managing to break out, because the move from 60 to 77, that's quite a big percentage move. So PayPal, interesting. OATLY got completely creamed in earnings. So did Beyond Meat. Sales dropped over 30%. So they're getting absolutely crushed at the minute because margins getting squeezed, partly due to inflation, and then, based on supermarket shelves, it's hard to come by, so it is. So that, and apparently Beyond Meat, they've been putting out a narrative that whoops, where does GameStop come up when you do that? That's weird. So yes, Beyond Meat there is crushing 14%. It's down at 13.16. Downtrend continues, and you'd have to worry about these guys' sales. There's a little bit of a meager move up again from having put in a new low, and you got continuation divergence as well as terrible earnings. What did the news say? Top fall in regional bank jitters. It's regional bank jitters. I suppose you could call it that. Large bank downgrades and windfall taxes in Europe. We've already had them in Liechtenstein, Lithuania, and Spain. But it looks as though they're going to have them now, they have in Italy, I think it's a 40% windfall tax. It's a pretty huge shock to shareholders who may have been anticipating some of those funds. And then it's also affecting regional banks owned by the government. So, terrible incompetency there. And that's already all over Europe, so they're expecting it to spread. France, which is much more socialist than other European countries, you would anticipate them thinking, shucks, the Italians beat us to it, so they'll be implementing their own windfall tax. I would anticipate. Hey, Tradespotting, many thanks to you and Rocky. Hope your boys are doing well. Yo, Janine, thanks so much for the $5. It's appreciated. That's a christening the show. Thank you very much. YouTube on that BS again. Said this was not live yet. Joined to wait. Here we are live. Yo, Jake. Yeah, YouTube loves doing that sort of thing. Might be because I set different times to start it and then went a couple of minutes early. The WULF might be another Bitcoin miner. I keep an eye on it. Squeeze candid too. Is it kitties? WULF? That's what sounds like when an elephant farts underwater. Oh, it's a bit of a move already. That's not too bad. See, it's got a whole lot more volatility than it used to have, this thing. Sheesh. Eh? January 2022. Boom. Right, so from that most recent peak, it's made a 382 recovery, which is all right. It's not managed to exceed it yet, so not desperately exciting. Back above 492, it would get interesting in that you'd be expecting it to hit 746. That's a huge percentage move. Might be the best trade on the go, this thing. Daily time frame, potentially catching support here. Not bearishly divergent. Extremely overbought though. Yep, I can see why that might be if it was moving on the squeeze. If it was moving on a squeeze. You got your 1618 extension at the lows here. That's pretty good with a double bottom. Bullish divergence. You're obviously going to make a move at some point then. Not 0.5 to $4. That's your move there. You don't have any bearish divergence, but 4 hour, you've got bullish divergence. Probably does keep going then. Oof. Suits you, sir. What's the 1 hour saying? Not quite on that leg. And a Rocky Outcrop flash at, what's that? 3.24. Well, it's putting in a bit of a nasty leg here, which doesn't have bullish divergence and does have continuation divergence. So being trapped below the 50 simple, I'd wait for Bitcoin to make its move. But if this thing does get back above that 50 simple and Bitcoin's doing well, you'd be targeting 3.24, prior high at 4, and then $7 and change, which might be happening. Bitcoin, boing, there it is, 29,975 high today. It's only $9 off that at the minute. That's another good trade. Put that in the Discord. Join the Discord, Rocky Outcrop's Discord, discord.gg/Rocky Outcrop. Super easy. You just type that in your URL, discord.gg, which is like for good game, and then /Rocky Outcrop, and then you can join for free. For free! Right, so again, what are we looking at here? Jeepers creepers. It's made that move then back up above the golden pocket retracement, held the bearish control zone and that trend line. Nice. I'll just borrow you, mate. I know you're probably being used somewhere else. So that was positive. Price action putting in bullish divergence with the lows on price action, pushing back up to topside. We like a bit of that. So that's an interesting shout, kitties. That's an interesting shout. Let me just check this here in case I've missed anything. What do you mean reload? For goodness sakes. Janine. Thanks, Janine. And then 5 minutes beforehand, Minner, $5. Thank you very much, Minner. Thank you very much, Janine. Minner was actually christened the show. It was yourself, Minner, that christened it. Janine, there with the confirmation. Thank you very much. And how many of you are there? There is 24. All right. Thanks so much for watching, 24 people. Right, so positive close there on the candle. You'd anticipate that being in bullish control zone, completely wiping out previous moves on the momentum. Tyson, it's had such a strong recovery from its terrible earnings knock, pushing back in, nearly closed that gap itself, persisting within a previous gap. So you start closing that, then that's very strong price action. Tyson are a food company and they're eating all of the market share of these companies like Oatly and Beyond Meat. Tyson being a particularly large meat seller and packer in the US and the world, like the biggest in the world by some distance. But that doesn't mean they don't want the odd extra customer that was previously a vegan and has now found their way back to sausages. So that's why it's looking like Tyson and their sausages doing quite well. They acquired a sausage brand recently, one of those ones with frozen sausages in the fridge freezer. Apparently they're really popular over there. So I like the Irish Richmond sausages. Anyway, you know dogs can't say sausages. But anyway, Tyson, 52, no, it's 55. Good, sweet. This was good, yes. The flash in at around 51 and change. That was good. Price action making it there and back again, back above 50 simple. 50 simple needs to start making its way above the 200 period moving average. It does give you a little bit of a cause for concern there. That's a very strong recovery. Yeah, so I can see that easily closing the gap, flipping a 50 simple positive. It'll take it through the 200 period moving average on the 4 hour, and you get your golden cross on the 4 hour. Geez, click it 100 times. Yeah, so that price action closed that gap. 50 simple, continue to the top side. It will cross, and then you'll get the golden cross there. On the daily time frame, closing that gap would take you up to 786 at 58 bucks. Well, closing this gap looking left. The graph ahead of you, not so much. So, well, I mean, well and truly already by then. So, yeah, this is the gap to look to on Tyson, and 58 would be the target. The fact that it recovered from that knock off after bad earnings is pretty good news. There's the earnings. All their earnings are bad for the last 7, 6, whatever it is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Their accounting makes it better. 42%. Oof. It'd already been bad. This was the one that really knocked it. 100%. Right, what about CENN? What's it up to? What do you want me to look at instead of me running through the list of things that I might do? Is it here? Where is it? There it is. There you are. Did my Streamlabs come through? Spot up member, 26 months, and he's a spider monkey too. Thank you so much for the support, Minner. You total legend, mate. Thanks so much. Yes, it did. It came through. How's the tea, Jamie? Hope your convalescence is going well. That was yesterday from Delete Yourself. Minner, $5. It was just a lucky fiver. Thank you very much, my friend. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Any did 4%. See, that's 4%. That tiny little candle's 4%. So a huge range on this thing when it's moving. And that's the start of a move. So that's good. Come on, Bitcoin. Solo. It's that Demi Lovato solo song. So that was really popular summer 3 years ago or something. Forgive me for that oblique reference. There's the 50 simple and the 200 period moving average. Oh, solo. We've got a decision to make. Very good. Very good, sir. Top. So you got your flash, you met your downward sloping resistance, and you lost 7.27% to date, which is pretty much what we thought might happen on this guy. It's very, very difficult to enter this here with any sensible strategy backing you up. That wasn't bearishly divergent. I could see us go on again, touch that 786, push higher. I could see it, but it's very difficult to enter that. Still in the bullish control zone on the daily time frame, so you can't argue with the longs. It's kind of slipped out of it there in the 4 hour, and you can see if it does come back down. God, it's going to be horrific. So you don't want to be caught in that. I hope you've got a stop loss if you're in profit. Aapl, 0.5% today, but they've got a flash, a gap, support here, 200 period moving average, daily time frame. Obviously, you've slipped out of that diagonal and you've lost your 50 simple, 200 period moving average way downtown, 160 bucks. Problems with the iPhone, worrying Apple investors. But, you know, it's Apple, and that's a very strong uptrend. And this most recent high is an all-time high, and they've got a lot of... You both be in AI, so when that starts moving, everything will. C3.ai, ticker is AI. A lot of people worried. C3.ai. The interesting thing about this is like lots of interesting things about AI stocks, but this one particular stock, was it yesterday or the day before, it had a short interest of 30%. You know, there's quite a high ratio. So people will be looking at it thinking, is this a squeeze candidate? Even though it's already trading at 35 bucks, is in an uptrend, and you know, so that's very strange. So they also made a 50% retracement against that drop down. So it's a very strange place to start a squeeze from. But I have been reading people interested in that idea. I'd personally say it looks a little bit dodgy. You've got this previous suggestion, which you're now in and around those areas. So it is a potential trade setup. You would prefer to see it hitting on the diagonal here that we've got sketched out, which has been marking this trend to the top side since its inception, and you have been putting in higher highs and higher lows, so that's still all true, and it may well be a bounce area, but you would have preferred to see it at the diagonal, and not seeing it there suggests that, you know, the 200 period moving average in the prior level than the formation. If you get there though, you'll be testing the low without having tested the high, so it might just exceed it and come down testing diagonal at the golden pocket, and you see it at 25 bucks, and that would put everybody who was looking for a squeeze, they would put their nose out of joint, so it would. So yes, and at the minute though, you're at the top side of the bearish control zone. You have got potential bullish divergence. If it does come in there and bounce, I'd expect it to go and put new highs in again. Woohoo! So that's that. That's that as always. An Ibn? It's just running through things. It has had positive moves. It's a little bit divergent and it is potentially losing the bullish control zone. That's not fantastic. A 1 hour. Doesn't look too bad there. Does look a little bit dodgy on the RSI. Whoops. I shouldn't have that trading panel open. Oh my goodness gracious moi. Right, so what else then? What else? What else people be looking to hear about? 2,400%. Right then. CRISPR did well. Wherever it is. Crispy or Crispies. 10% today. Was up at 54 at one point. 54 spot 64. Closing at 53.05. And then post-market a little bit of continuation. Extended hours. People call it all sorts of different things. Electronic, extended, extra. Post-market trading is what I would have called it. Anyway, 55 bucks. That'd be nice to see that up at a 55 there. Continue. A lot of people are interested in it. That would be nice. Why? I'm not actually in it, but a lot of people would be interested in it. What else are a lot of people interested in? Plug. Fill the gap. Horrible downtrend. Forward. 4 hour forward. Pretty brutal. It's not forward, it's forward industries. We can look at, that's the ticker's forward. We can look at forward. 200 period moving average there on the 4 hour. Lots of bullish divergence. Previously in a uptrend. Double top. Head and shoulders. Often you get a double top on the head as part of a head and shoulders when you're looking at a move that's only made it back to a previous. We even got it here, did you? No, but you got your head and shoulders. Often you get that if it's like testing a previous level of resistance and in the meantime price action has been going sideways, which is what you've got here. Often your second touch, if it is a head and shoulders, comes with a double top on the head. Just tip for people who managed to get to this point in the video. Average watch time is usually around 13 minutes, so the average person, that's not how that works, will have missed it. Ha! SNDL, right, this is Saturday Night Live. No, it isn't, it's Sundial, and it's a golden pocket retracement putting in bearish divergence. Previously to that, it wasn't doing anything dangerous, though, and it has held the center around recently, so you break to the top side, you see this thing at 187. That'd be nice. What? Damn. What else did I miss? Hi, Charlotte. Hi, Rafa. Hi, Ghost Dan. How are you doing, Dan? How you doing, Kitty? Good to see you. What's Jamie doing? What Jamie at? Best squeeze candidate right now are Fngr and GTI. You reckon? Fngr. Yeah, Kitty's loves Fngr. Made it to that flash. Pretty good. 528. We do like that. We do like that. 4 hours pretty good for this chart. You see, it's mostly been going sideways. 541. Yeah, I mean, obviously not looking at the short ratios and whatnot, but you've got your W. You've got your uptrend. You've got your trend line on the momentum. You have got a little bit of a question mark here in that your second high was lower and price action has retraced a little bit, but if that RSI holds the center line, then I'd anticipate this looking like a bull flag and breaking back up again and coming testing in at around 10. Oh my goodness gracious me. Don't want to see the RSI break below the center line. If it does, not much, right? Only enough to give you bullish divergence on this low. With, you know, the people pushing it down harder and harder, that's measured by the RSI, and price action itself not making it lower, right? That'd be the divergence you would be looking for there, and that could go on. And you want to look at GTII. Here, we pulled this one out of the bag a while ago. Eh? Well, there's some good work. There's some good work, sir. Yeah, so this, I mean, you can see where it's come from. This is on daily time frame too, so it is at highs in this leg of the trend, though I would say that mostly it's sideways price action. Had this high. Exceeded it, higher high, but then you had these lows, lower lows, so not definitive yet. but a lot on the go. You could probably look at this and you can't really look at anything there because there's so much mess. You could probably look at this and draw a trend line. Say, oh, it's disappearing. Yeah, you want it back above that diagonal, though you'll never be able to tell when it's going on because there's far too many drawings. Get down to the 15-minute time frame, zoom in a little bit, and look at this guy properly. You see the auto thing? They hid it in there. Right click on scales. Right, so yeah, you got your bullish divergence and whatnot. This is the downtrend. Looking left, no extreme reason to be excited about it. You didn't have any real problem there on the lower time frames to push you down. The only reason price is coming down is because it's in a downtrend. Support then is where you are. If it doesn't hold that, then you're looking at 0.7 clean. You've broken that trend line RSI and you're in the bearish control zone below your own moving average. Oof, you're just out of it, so you could argue with it there. 15-minute time frame, you're well and truly out of it, but you've got horrible continuation divergence. So this may well be a squeeze candidate. There's Rocky Outcrop flash at 1.1, so 30% on it, but it currently looks like it may be about to roll over. This is bullishly divergent, but it's in the downtrend. It's got continuation divergence on the top side, so I wouldn't be too enthusiastic about it right now. If it does move up, maybe I change my mind, and if it doesn't move up, then it will come pretty quickly down and test that 0.7. I'd look at it on the 15-minute time frame that way, and then on the 1 hour time frame in the bearish control zone, it's very difficult to argue. I mean, maybe it isn't. We spoke to it like that when we zoomed in. 4 hour, you got your body closes here. You don't need to go any further, and you've got your bullish divergence. No, you've not. Yeah, I mean, this looks like a rejection at the top side here now. Rejection of the 200 period moving average on the 4 hour, and then losing the 50 simple afterwards. Daily time frame, where our moving average is at? Both above us. Negative slope, negative splay. Price action doing not very much. Doing not very much there. So if it is due to squeeze, I mean, that's low enough market price there, isn't it? Low enough price per share that people would be interested in option trains. Silly money, just silly bets. 267 million market cap. It's better than it's been. Right, so GTII potentially, but in a bit of a downtrend. It's not looking as fantastic. Now we're here. Do you want to look at Tilray? It's 36%. Whoa! Somebody asked about this yesterday and we talked about it, so that's pretty good. We said it could go to 3 points. What was it? Canadian exchange. We talked about it as going to potentially 3.7. So we'll just do it on the Canadian exchange. I mean, we've done it all here already. And we called this move and it was all fantastic, but you could look at it on the Canadian exchange. Yeah, we said 3.7. That was 236. Just managed to do that and a little bit more. Buying a lot of beer brands. I think Rocky was saying that alcohol accounts for about 40 to 46% of their revenue nowadays, which is great for them because regulatory environment around cannabis is still a little bit obscure. SNDL, Fundale. Can it have 2 shoulders, total of 4 shoulders? It can do, yeah. Complex head and shoulders is what that's called, kitties. You're not on the course. You've not been paying attention, kitties. Jamie, do you write down entries and reasons for the trade before you take the trade? Quite often. Depends, you know. I have a number of accounts which I trade with various strategies. So the daily time frame. What? So the day trading. It might be, you know, 3 particular funds I would do that in, and on those ones, depending on what type of trade it is, if it's like a scalp, then no, I don't need to do that sort of thing. And I'll remember how many trades to take more or less in that reasoning, so I don't need to worry too much about that. I would mark something down on a piece of paper though. And then with like investment trades, yeah, definitely. Definitely things that I plan, like i.e. things that I plan on holding for more than 5 days. Definitely, if I'm looking at holding it, it wouldn't be really that way I would look at it, right? Like, am I going to hold it overnight or not is mostly what I do, because I do have the time to look at the charts every day. So I'll look at anything I own, and I'll typically look at it at open and close. Close will be towards close wondering if I'm going to be holding this overnight or not. It doesn't really matter how long I've held it before or what my entry was. It's not vanity about the profit on any one given trade either. It's about what I'm doing today and tonight and tomorrow. Do I want to wake up and see this gap way down below or not? So I will write down things, certainly the reasons for taking the trade on any stock that I'm planning on holding for more than a day, definitely. And like, I'd do a lot more than that if I was planning on holding the thing for, you know, a number of months. And then I would write down the reasons for the entry, why that would be my entry, and the same thing for all of my take profit targets. Not because, you know, I want to stick to the rules that I've given other people or any other weird construct. Just because I'll forget. I know I'll forget, because in 3 months or 6 months time, I'll be looking at, say, for example, like I've been thinking about when is the time to enter PayPal. Is it now or is it when it drops down to $40? Right. So, for example, if I was looking at PayPal, what a crap business that would be. PayPal, weekly, we'll go. See, this is the thing with people, right? Everyone was really, really excited. Really excited. It was only a weekly flash that it made it to, you know, and there was a 50 simple period moving average. Typically, you would expect a rejection from that area. Like, whatever the fundamental analysis is, like, I don't actually care. So, at this stage, I was anticipating this being a potentially a fake out with the prior high within here, and it came in. We talked about it on Discord and whatnot. I was quite interested in it, but I think that now that it's made this drop back down again, that's where it comes interesting. So, and I'd obviously be spending a lot of time looking for my entry. Where was it that there was a Rocky Outcrop flash number that I thought, do we wait for it? Yeah. So do we wait for this, or do we enter here? You know, and do I scale in a position, and like how much of my total account am I going to be committing at that period in time? Because obviously that figure will change as and when it comes to taking profit on this thing and whatnot. So I'll need to know why and what I'm doing, and I'll refer back to it in a book, which I can't show you because my camera's not on, but I've got lots of different trading journals. So the little one I'm using at the minute is a diary from last year that I never used. So I just use it, which I've done loads of times, because who uses diaries? People buy me them anyway, because they think I do. They think I use them because they see them lying around, but they're all old diaries. Anyway, that's not, you know, whatever, right? If it was that or a pair of socks, so who cares? Right, so yeah, I write it down. I write all that down. Probably not giving you a proper... Yeah, so I'd write down the idea, what I think is going on with the trade, why I think that it's a good idea overall, how much of my account that I'd be planning on putting into it percentage-wise, and the various places I'd be doing that, depending if I was scaling in or whatnot. I'd put in the reason for my stop, which it might be really obvious, so it's not like I need to write that a lot, you know, it's not a long paragraph. Pull back, stop loss plus whatever, typically. And you can never have too many empty diaries. Yeah, they do come in handy. I've got one from like 2007, which I used to write phone numbers in, which is like, and they're not actually on any particular day or date or whatever. I just write them in, and I also know pretty much what's on every page of the diary. Like, you know, if I needed someone's phone number, I could know that I need to go to March the 12th or whatever it happens to be, because that's where I found it before. What was I talking about here? Right, so you write these things down. Yes, you write down your reasons for the trade, your stops, your take profit, your stops, your entry, and your take profit. When I'm writing things down for the trade, I'll typically do it along the same lines that we came up with for teaching people in the course. So you start off with talking about the trend. You mention what you see with regards to momentum, and you make some assessment of the volatility profile, and then you would speak to a little bit, maybe, I don't write this down, but a lot of people would then write down what they were anticipating in terms of volume, like the change from status quo to them getting the positive move on price. So, and they might be looking for confluence. And I would imagine, you know, if you were writing these things down, you yourself would think like, oh, well, there was like bullish divergence, and you know, you had your formation, and this was the signal that comes with those strategies, and I'm waiting for it. And you might write down all that down before you take the trade, and forget it all, and not take the trade and not make any money, and watch as the thing goes up loads, which happens so many times. But you want to be writing down why it is you want to enter, where it is you want to enter, and where you want to take profit. And it's very important to write down where you want to take profit. This is crucial because your emotions will increase as soon as you enter a trade, and you'll find your parts of yourself are unrecognizable from the millisecond before you click that button. So it's a very good idea to have it written down why it is that you decided to take profit at whatever it might happen to be, right? And if that's 50% up in price, that's a good enough reason in of itself, and I would write that down. Or if it was, you know, this was the, you know, if like, for example, you're looking at PayPal now, and if I was trying to enter this thing without waiting for it to go lower, then I'd be managing my risk as well in a slightly different way, right? Because if your risk management involves loads and loads of patience, and your entry right next to the place that you would want to have your stop at, then the whole thing's quite clear to you, and you might not to write that down every time. But if you're managing, if your trade's different, then your risk management will be different. And if you're entering here, then your risk management is going to be totally different from a stop right next to your entry where you don't need to worry about it. And if you get ticked out, it won't cost you more than 1% or 2% of your account or whatever. In around here, you know, maybe you're managing it with a manual stop and you're thinking, well, you've got a potential entry because of this guy, you've got this guy here. You don't have the same privilege, you don't have the same benefits and advantage of being right immediately next to where your stop might be, because this is a potential entry and this is definitely a stop area for the previous pullback. It's obviously bullishly divergent, so some people would be looking at that as a signal. It's a downtrend, so it doesn't match my buy, but it is like my particular signals. But yeah, I would be conscious of the difference between entering here and entering in around here. So I'd have to, if it was something I was taking for like over 2 or 3 months, I'd have to write down why I made that decision, because the context of that decision would inform the manual stop and my long-term perspective on it. For example, it may well be that when you're trading something like this, which is still volatile, still in a downtrend, and really you're not actually getting a buy signal right now, so it's not the best example. But if you were, you'd be saying, well, I'll need to immediately manage my risk to the top side, right? Because like this is the bottom pullback stop comes in around this guy. You'd need to manage your risk, obviously, and if you've taken the course, you know that that comes in a variety of factors. You manage your risk, taking profit too. And up here, 50% retracement, bottom side of the gap, and it's clearly a level of potential resistance. So I'd have to take profit here if I was entering here, and that's only a move from 61 to 67. I say only, that's 10%, but you know, I wouldn't necessarily have that same strict rule if I was looking to enter. Yo, Tony Pecos, how you doing? Good to see you, buddy. Great to see you. If you were looking at, so yeah, that's what I'm sort of distracted. But the point being, if you've got a different risk management strategy, like if your risk management strategy is dictated by, which it will be, price action at the time, what it looks like, you would want to note that if it was any conflict, any indecision in your mind as to why it was that you were like entering here as opposed to here. You'd want to be marking that down, because you would just hate on yourself if price action got down there, stopped you out, and you know, you were like, well, why did I even take that trade? Sometimes even if it just doesn't go for you, go straight to your stop, and you know, you're still good to have had that stuff written down. Also, when it comes to iterative improvements, you have to know what it is that you did wrong. So that sort of thing can help. The longer you trade for, the longer you spend at the charts analyzing price action, whether or not you're taking trades. If you are thinking analytically and imagining trades a lot of the time, like, well, what would have worked out here, what would have worked out, you know, and then especially if you're trading for many years, you become very familiar with your own edge. So you know things about why you would trade that you don't need to write down, because you're speaking to yourself, and you're always going to know, like, the reason for the divergent signal that you were looking at the time. You don't need to put it in context for the last week's price action or whatever. You know, it's yourself you're speaking to. So the longer you go on, the more shorthand your notes can be with regards to trades, and the less that you'll need to write down anyway, because it'll become immediately obvious to you when you look back at it, or when you just glance at the charts, what it was that was providing the extra context. But that doesn't mean you can just skip everything, because when you come to looking at your journal or assessing your trades over a 3 months period, the previous 3 months or the last year. You'll have to be doing this at some stage if you're a trader. When you do come to assess your own record, there'll be things that are glaringly obvious from your notes that you would never have considered because you've got blinkers. You know, you're trying to analyze so much data and you're trying to hold certain bits of it in your mind that you feel would be pertinent, that you end up hyper focused on like these elements of your edge, and so often you'll see like, oh, I applied all of this reasoning for trading PayPal, the same analysis to, for example, this biotech firm, and because I was spent 6 hours on PayPal and in 3 minutes on this, but I took that trade and I went through the same, and you can look back on your journal and see like, oh, look what I was doing there, you know, that was a bit absurd. I can tell that ticker is a completely different sector. Yeah, I've got like a very similar trading strategy. You know, why is that? Was that sensible? You know, and like things that you like this that you wouldn't necessarily notice at the time or any given day, looking back on how your day went. But if you look at it like in a month's time, you would think, well, wow, that was so very strange that I would have gone straight from that sector to that other one and taken that trade within 12 minutes of this other record here. And things jump out at you, they aren't immediately obvious. So you got to be doing all of these sort of things. Definitely taking notes and recording your trades. And I would say that you should be spending as much time on your exit as your entry. I've read lots of different, and have seen lots of different trading advice over the years. People saying like, oh, 90% on your exit, 10% on your entry. That seems to be a real popular lesson that people are trying to impart. I think it's like completely stupid. You should obviously be spending as much time on either side of it, if not more time on your entry, because your entry is where your risk immediately is present. You know, taking the profit, right? That's it's not easier, but it's a very different type of analysis. And a vast majority of my time spending analyzing things and recording notes will be why it is I entered at the time. But then I obviously have to write down the taking profit and why it is I decided to take profit, because later on when it comes to referring back to it, like for example, if you don't have take profit orders in for your whole position, and then you go and look at it, you while it is true to say that every chart you should look at it afresh from the minute you open it up and do your analysis, you don't want to lose all the work that you did before that will save you time, which is still true, like on the monthly time frame and whatnot. And some of that might be affecting your reasons for taking profit. It's very different now that we've got Rocky Outcrop's toolkit here. So there's certain things that you would have had to do before that you don't now. Like you don't have to mark in the prior highs and lows on the week and day. So you don't have to define them in terms of your trade setup that way. You know, you've got these all marked in here. Weekly high, low and whatnot. So you've got clear reasons to take profit at different areas, and rather than go and finding these information, they're immediately present. So those sort of things are all helpful. But anyway, that was loads of different chat really about how I write things down. Not necessarily how I present a lesson on taking notes. But yes, it's important to record it so that you can analyze it afterwards, iteratively improve, work to increase your own success rate. And that's a very important message, you know, to record your trades and have a trading journal, depending on, you know, a lot of people do it lots of different ways. Some people don't use a pen and paper and they only use a spreadsheet. Some people have the whole thing automated, which I think loses a little bit of value. But the point isn't that specifically, it's that, yo, hello, Lady Kim. It's that, it's how you doing. It's, I can't remember what I'm saying. Yeah, the point is, yeah, you want to iteratively improve, and the only way you can do that is if you've got a record of what happened, because you will convince yourself of things that aren't true. There is no such thing as the perfect memory, and we're all affected by our own cognitive biases and what we would like to see happen. So recording your trades is really important, and having a trading journal is really important. Also keeps you focused on the idea that you are the problem, right? It's not the stocks, it's not the other market participants, it's not the hedge funds, and it's not some bad guy who lives down the street. You are the problem, right? When it comes to your trading, it doesn't matter how good you are. The only problem there is you. You're the problem. And if you're writing down all these reasons for your decisions, then you're able to analyze the pertinent information, which is your decision making, which is the problem, right? No matter how good you are at trading, like for example, me, right? I'm the problem when I'm trading, and it's usually an emotional one at this stage of my career. It's usually be able to see, like, oh, look how I feel, right? I feel X, Y, or Z. And that's the problem, right? Because I've got written down here what I want to do, and it's all determined by what price does. And my feelings and emotions at this moment are completely irrelevant. And not only that, but they're likely counterproductive, because that's the way human brains work, right? We want to reduce risk. We're scared of everything all the time. You know, you can see all the terrible things that can happen. And you can also see all the amazing things you'd love to happen, even when they're not there. So it's very important to not just rely on your feelings and emotions, which is what will happen if you don't have a trading strategy. And what's what your trading strategy will devolve down to if you don't write things down. And also, trading is about having rules and sticking to your rules. So if you find yourself writing a sentence which contravenes one of your important rules, which has been developed because you've learned that that rule helps you make money, then, you know, just the act of writing it down will quite often put you off taking the trade, because you'll realize, like, what am I doing? Like, this is not what I should be doing. Which is a thought I'll have many hundreds of times every week. You're like, wait a minute, you know, and it may be it's because I'm writing something down, or it may be because you know. Also, you'll find yourself like you do an analysis of something. You go have a cup of tea, come back down, sit down, and some gestalt thing jumps out at you on the chart, and you think, this is the answer. This is what it is. And if you remember back to, like, you know, before the kettle boiled, when you were saying this is incredibly bearish and these signs are terrible, and I mean, while it could come down here and look good, this is awful, that would, like, save you a lot of money often. So I'm not sure you have to write down everything, especially when you're not trading, but it is good to have a knowledge of how your feelings and emotions impact your cognition, which is desperate. You know, it happens to, it's terrible. So it happens to all humans in any stressful environment. It's often your own reaction that gets you killed or caught or run over or freeze. You freeze in the street. You know, you see that people cross the road and then they look right and there's a huge bus and it's going to hit them, right, if they stop. But because it's so very dangerous, they're scared, so they stop, and then the bus hits them, and that's what you don't want to happen to you. So you should be watch, about to cross left, about to cross right, and then you write down, I'm crossing the road now because there's no traffic coming. It would save you getting hit by a car. It would take a lot longer, be a lot more laborious trading, but you would never get hit by a bus. So yeah, I think I've probably killed people with that answer. I don't want to get run over or freeze. That's what you say now. That's what you say now, but part of you does. Part of you wants to get run over while you're frozen. We have to fight all of our own demons. Get out of my head. Yo, tubes. Yo. So we started just around market close, and it's now an hour later. So I think we've done approximately an hour. Approximately. Maybe we're a few minutes after. What am I missing? Has anybody wanted me to see anything? Janine with the $5, Minner with the $5. Don't see anything else there. On the stream elements. Do I see anything here? Nope, here, nothing here. So I've covered everything everybody asked for. That's good news. Another stream under the belt. We discussed SPY. That was the main thing I wanted to talk about. The support and resistance levels either side, because I know a lot of people who would have previously watched me on the regular would be trading either index futures or index options looking at SPY, and I think those support and resistance areas are relevant for people who are looking at weekly expiries, monthly expiries, or just generally managing long and short positions on SPY. So I wanted to cover that and VIX and get back on the horse. We did that. It's 2 days in a row. That feels good. Thanks very much for people who support the stream. Any way you do is really appreciated. Helps me a lot. Helps the stream continue. It helps me put effort into things, because I'd take so long off, and because things weren't making money, I had to cancel some of the services, so you don't get some of the exciting flashing, spinning stuff and the graphics and music and whatnot, those sort of subscription services. So we've scaled back a little bit on costs. So if you are willing to support the show, or you're watching later and you think, hey, that was helpful, I got some information out of that, and you want something back, you can do using the links in the description below. There's no obligation, but it's really, really appreciated. So thanks very much for that if you're thinking about it. And if you want to become a channel member or join my Patreon, those things are super easy to do too, and it's really appreciated. So thanks very much for tuning in. let me know in the meantime if you want me to look at anything. Still doing fax requests if anybody sends any through. No problem. Happy to do them. Delighted. So, you know, just use those links in the description. I can help you with any of your trades there in the moment or later that day, whatever it is that suits you. Just let me know. Thanks very much. See you in the next one. If you're watching later, hit that like button.